What is going on, y'all? We are back for another episode of Power. This is season 4, episode 3, The Kind of Man You Are. All right. So, as always, there's a whole lot going on in this episode. Side meetings happening. Still trying to get Ghost to flip on Tommy from all different angles. People trying to convince him to flip on Tommy. Angie trying to get Ghost to take this deal. Whole bunch of stuff happening. So let's get into it. The episode starts out with the feds rounding up everybody. They got Andre, Julio, and Keisha. We also see a peek of Angie at Greg's funeral, and we see Bailey creeping in the background. He peeps Angela at the funeral, and we'll get into that later. Over at the jail, Terry, which is the new defense counsel that is going to be second chair to Proctor, we meet him over at the jail. He walks in. Ghost is like, who in the hell are you? Like, looking at him with all kinds of skepticism. Terry introduces himself, kind of, sort of, and Proctor comes in eventually, like a few minutes after Terry gets there and is talking to Ghost. Proctor pops up and tells Ghost who Terry is and all of that. So Terry is basically laying everything out for Ghost in trying to establish a timeline for Greg. He has the photos and everything, the evidence, the photos. He lays them out and is telling Ghost, like, look, the motive checks out, that, you know, because the prosecution is trying to lay out this whole story of Ghost killing Greg to protect Tommy from getting arrested for killing Lobos. So the motive is there, but Terry is like, we need to establish an alibi. So that's what all the pictures and everything are for. And Ghost tells Terry what happened that day. And he tells Terry that he did break into Greg's apartment. But he says that in one of the photos, he notices there is a cell phone in the drawer. The phone wasn't there when Ghost broke in. So he points that out to Terry and tells Terry, like, you know, whoever is framing this whole thing must have left that phone there because it wasn't there when I broke in. So that was pretty much that. And Ghost also says that he explains he was helping Angie try to pinpoint who the mole was in the organization with the whole Lobos and everything, how that went down. And that must be how the phone ended up there. Whoever's framing that whole thing must have left the phone there. So, but he has no proof. So they pretty much have nothing at that point. Tommy drops the kids off at school and has a moment with Tariq and is like, what is going on with all this shade you throwing your mom? Like, you know, she needs you. Tariq is like, I'm not really interested in helping my mom or my dad. And he also says again that Ghost is probably guilty. He probably did all of what they talking about. But you notice how Tommy, if that had been Tasha would have been like, don't you talk like that about your dad, and he didn't do this and whatever. But Tommy was like, yeah, you know, I don't trust him all the time either, but he told me he didn't do this and I really believe he didn't do it or whatever. And Tommy says, you know, he wouldn't put the family in jeopardy like that. Tariq was like, yeah, well, the family's not that important to him anymore, obviously. And you notice also when Tariq gets out of the car to walk into the school, it looks like something's on Tommy's mind. I think Tommy might be on the track to piecing together this whole Kanan thing. Maybe not, but you could see it right there that something was on Tommy's mind. For Tariq to be talking like this, it's clearly something in the water that ain't clean. So cool. And then the next sequence is a lot like how the previous show was with the playing back and forth. Like, you know, last episode we had the play back and forth of the defense and the prosecution and that whole thing. And in this episode we have the play back and forth of the prosecution questioning Julio and Andre. So it's Saxe that's questioning Julio, and it's all the run-of-the-mill questions like, how did you meet and all of that. And Julio's like, look, I met Jamie at the wash and fold. You know, the wash and fold was the laundering spot for their business. So, and Sandoval is questioning Andre, and neither one of them are giving up anything. Both of them are like, you know, Ghost is good, he ain't do nothing. Andre's like, he helped the nigga out when I needed a second chance. Julio was like, he put his ass on the line to get me out of the Toros Locos and everything. So they have nothing. And then but you see how they went back and forth between Julio and Andre, but they didn't include Keisha in that mix. They kept Keisha and Angie's sequence separate. And I don't know. I'm just in my mind thinking it was a reason for that. It went into that whole effect of the show. But anyway, so Keisha and Angie's questioning Keisha, basically trying to get her to spill it on Ghost and Tasha not being together as husband and wife anymore. She's trying to pull this whole spousal privilege card. She's trying to snatch that rug out from under this whole thing. And Keisha's not giving up anything. Of course, Keisha's not giving up anything. And she tells Angie, look, I'm not going to say anything against Tasha. So, and bitch, you know the answers to these questions. You all talking about where he was sleeping and when he left the marital residence and all of this and that. Bitch, you know what you doing. Like, get out of here. And I'm over Angie. I just really am over her old desperate ass. Like, she just, I don't know. She's lingering, trying to find a purpose, and her old wishy-washy ass. I'm just over her. So, that was that. And let's see. Then we got Terry and Proctor. Terry, Proctor, and Keisha and Tasha. And so they're going over Tasha. Keisha's telling everybody what happened and everything. And Terry points out exactly what it is Angie was trying to do. So she's like, Tasha's like, well, damn, now this bitch is coming after me, you know. And Proctor and Terry are like, don't talk to nobody else when we not there. And on their way out, they're like, well, shit, you know, this is definitely legit, the strategy they're using. They could do that, but so we got to get that DNA thrown out. Meanwhile, Tasha assures Keisha that I'll protect you. Like, they'll never get shit from me, so I'll protect you. And then Terezi, back at the jailhouse, calls Sammy and is like, yeah, what's the deal on Tommy? What's the deal on Tommy and Ghost? And Sammy's like, yeah, you know, Tommy's a boss from Queens, runs with Ghost, whatever. And Terezi, something goes off in his mind, because you see Ghost was sitting in the background, so he's like, oh, okay, all right, cool. So that was that. He gets off the phone with Sammy and everything. And back at the prosecution roundtable, they're going over the interviews that they had with Andre, Keisha, and Julio. And they're like, basically, we got nothing. And the spousal privilege thing comes up again. And Angie's like, I don't think we should go that route, because I don't think Tasha's going to talk. The kids are innocent. That whole Josh Cantos comes up. Josh was the security manager back at Truth last season. And we saw how that whole thing went down with him and Ghost. And Josh, pretty much like Mock says, has an axe to grind, so fuck him. He's not gonna do us no good. But hold on, Mock talking about Josh got an axe to grind. If anybody has an axe to grind, clearly it's Mock having an axe to grind with Proctor. So, and then this asshole says, well, the kids just become a casualty. Basically, they're just collateral damage. Like we need to get this win. So fuck the kids and all of that. We gonna go. We gonna do what we gotta do to get this win. And back at the warehouse, Tommy and Pitar. Tommy is still trying to smooth things over. Tommy's trying to assure Pitar that everything is fine. They good because they got the shipment coming in soon. But Pitar is like, these motherfuckers in Chicago are already antsy because Ghost ass is still in all this legal trouble and we need this shit to go off without a hitch. And Tommy's like, well, I got it. Just chill. I got it. And they need to continue to run that bottle box through that club to get that money to them, to the Serbs. So over at the school, this same little boy is bullying Raina about because Raina gets the text with the picture of her father and about the whole murder thing. And the boy approaches Raina and was like, yeah, your father didn't mention murder when he was here at career day. Tariq comes down the stairs and slams the boy against the wall. Now, the little boy deserved it. And Tariq on my nerves, but I was here for that in that moment. Although Tariq could have really fucked up some shit right then, but I don't like that little boy. I don't like that little boy at all. So, that whole blow up happens, and you see how on his way out, Tariq bucks at the dude at the other little boy. So I think Tariq is thinking he hard now. Like I said before, I think he thinking he hard. But anyway, they walk out to school, and Raina gets photographed from across the street. She's upset. She's crying. So she gets photographed from across the street, which is a whole nother problem in and of itself. So back at the jail with Ghost, Proctor, and Terry, that's when it comes out that Greg pulled Ghost over. That's how the DNA got under his fingernails. That's how they got the DNA on Greg's body, because he pulled him over. And it also comes out that Angela knew about the shit. Like, Proctor didn't know that Angela knew about it, but she did. There's no record of the traffic stop though, but Proctor is on it. Proctor is like telling Terry, like, find whatever you can. So Mock, Sandoval, and Bailey, the dude from the beginning that was peeping Angela at Greg's funeral, they're sitting down talking, and Mock is like telling Bailey, we need your testimony to establish this timeline. And they're going back and forth about whether or not Greg is the mole or Angie is the mole. Bailey is trying to vindicate Greg, because, you know, that was his man. And it's saying that Angie was the mole. And Bailey says, well, I'll do this if you investigate Valdez as the mole and clear Greg's name. And Mock's like, well, I can't make that promise. Then Bailey's like, well, I ain't got shit for you then. I can't do nothing. So fuck y'all. I'm out. Keisha and Tommy over at Keisha's house and shit. And they talking. Keisha's catching Tommy up on the whole Fed interview and everything. And tells him about how Angie could potentially prosecute Tasha if she doesn't testify against James and all of that. Tommy's like, Tasha's not going to do that. Tasha won't talk. Keisha's like, yes, she will. For her kids, to protect her kids, she will talk. So I guess we just going to have to see what happens with that. So Kanan and Tariq, they sitting there sipping lean, and Tariq is still giving up all the info to Kanan, and is saying his dad's going to get the death penalty. His mom ain't saying shit. And then that's when Kanan says, "All right, you remember them plans we was talking about? Now it's time to get that shit cracking." So I'm curious to know what these plans are. I don't know. We'll see. Bailey visits Angela over at the office and is like, "Yeah, I blame your ass for this shit, bitch. Like, if you wasn't so gung-ho on St. Patrick, and if you had never left Greg for St. Patrick, none of this shit would ever be happening." And here go Angie talking about something, "I'll do whatever it takes to get justice for Greg." Bitch, girl, bye. Like, I can't with her. That's why I said her ass is just, she desperate, floundering. Like, she was so on this fuck Greg kick when everything was all good with Jamie. Now Greg is dead, Jamie's in jail, and she wants justice for Greg. Bitch, please. So Bailey's like, "Okay, well, you want justice, then let's do this. How about you go ahead and admit that you were the mole, testify about you and Jamie, and I'll testify about Greg trying to get you both. That'll be justice. Everybody get what they deserve. You go to jail, Jamie gets the needle, and Greg gets colors on his grave because he deserves it." She not gonna do that. Okay, so over at Truth, they're prepping for the bottle box. They putting the product into the matchboxes. Julio and Andre, they talk for a minute about the Fed roundup, and Julio tells Andre to stop running the shit through the club because it's too much heat, right? Andre was like, "All right, whatever." So Julio rolls out, and Andre gets rid of Sue because, you know, Sue and Julio got this thing going on. So he gets rid of Sue and tells the other chick, "Go ahead and keep boxing this shit up and don't tell nobody about it. We need to keep this shit pumping." So he took control in that moment. He did what he had to do, right? Then we got Nutsacks and Bailey. Cooper Sacks, Nutsacks, and Bailey. And they're talking, and Bailey is telling Sacks that Tommy's on tape confessing to the murder of Lobos. But Nutsacks points out, like, on the tape, Tommy doesn't identify Ghost, nor does he identify Angie as the mole. So then basically you got nothing. But Bailey's like, "Yeah, we actually do, because it changes the motive." Ghost killed, that statement on the tape proves that Ghost killed Greg. It implies that Ghost killed Greg to protect himself, Tommy, and Angie from being arrested for Lobos' killing, right? So it's starting to make sense to Saxophone, okay? Tommy and Julio are over at the warehouse because, you know, they, like I said, they got the shipment coming in. And while they're talking, they were talking about the whole Fed thing too. And Tommy points out, you know, this is the most important shipment of your fucking life, Julio. So they still jockeying, like, because Tommy don't do things the way Julio would. Julio don't do things the way Tommy would, whatever. So we still see that in play. And over at the jailhouse, back with Jamie and Terezi's like, because, you know, he need that bread to pay for his wife's treatment. So Ghost is his way of, he found to pay for that. So he basically is extorting $20K a week from Ghost because he knows who he is, and he knows that Ghost doesn't want anybody to know who he is. So he's like, "Look, get your man Tommy to drop $20K a week off at this address, or I'ma tell Mark," basically. And Ghost's hands are tied. He he agrees to it, right? So Proctor and Tommy are talking, and it comes up that Keisha's a weak link. They're talking about the Fed roundup, and Tommy's telling him, like, look, I don't want this shit to come down on Tasha and the kids or Keisha, because Keisha good peoples. But Proctor's like, yeah, but who really is Keisha? Like, what does she know? Tommy's like, she's been around for a while, so she's seen some shit. But Proctor says she's a weak link. So I hope Keisha don't become a casualty. She didn't get killed last season. I thought she did. I don't know. Is this her season? I don't know. We'll see. Proctor and Terry, they're talking, and it comes out that Proctor used to be Tommy's lawyer as well. Terry's like, that's a clear conflict of interest. You have to recuse yourself. Proctor's like, fuck that, I'm not doing that. I know what I'm doing. Terry's skeptical. Still. And because they don't have that relationship, Terry and Ghost don't have that relationship that Proctor and Ghost have. So Terry's like, well, what make you think he not lying? Like, you should not stake your reputation on these niggas, because that's just stupid, and you're the smartest attorney I know. But Proctor's like, no, fuck that. I know what I'm doing. Get the traffic stop evidence, and if he says it happened, it happens. So get the fuck out of here and do what I need you to do. Cool. Now somebody else I'm here for is old Judge, Fed Judge with the dad bod. He comes out, and fucking Nutsacks is there trying to get, hypothetically talking about this tape, trying to see what the judge, get his temperature on it. The judge again was like, nigga, get the fuck out of here with that. You know that's some bullshit. Mark don't even know you here, and if he did know you here, he fucking eat your face off. And anyway, so the judge is like, yeah, Nutsacks, get the fuck out of here. I'm not listening to that shit. Go ahead. It'd be cool if it could prove Egan killed Lobos and implicate James or whatever. But anyway, get the fuck out of here. We not entertaining that. Okay, cool. Proctor and Ghost. Ghost tells Proctor about Terezi's extortion, and Angie shows up, wants to meet with Ghost alone, and they like, hell no, bitch, you not meeting with him alone. What the fuck are you doing here? So she sits down and tries to get Ghost to take the deal, confess to killing Greg, implicate Tommy, and we'll be good. I'll try to get your sentence reduced. But Ghost is like, I'm not doing that. Angie throws out the spousal privilege card and is like, if you don't do this, then we're gonna go after Tasha, and then what's gonna happen with the kids? Will the baby even remember you if you get the death penalty? This bitch is so bold. Then this is why I said this bitch is bold. She says, when it comes to you and what you want, family doesn't matter. But if y'all remember how she treated her sister back when her sister was in the picture, her sister tried to tell her not to be involved with him, but she turned her nose up at her sister in all kind of ways and treated her sister like shit. So bitch, get out of here. No one feels sorry for you, and you're just dumb. Tommy is over at the spot setting up the gambling joint and preparing to receive the shipment. Andre tells Tommy about the situation with Julio, and Julio telling him to stop running the bottle box. Tommy says, no, fuck that shit. Go ahead, do what you gotta do. Andre's like, all right, I got everything on lock. I got you. But Tommy says, don't get pinched. Okay, cool. And Andre also says, yeah, you know, about the Fed situation. I don't know what's up with Julio, but they did keep him a lot longer than they kept me. Tommy's like, whatever, I already know about the shit, shut up. Okay. CO Charlie hands Ghost the paper with Raina, and clearly that upsets Ghost. Tariq, meanwhile, is texting Kanan the entry codes for him and his man to go pull a caper on the little dude from the school. They get in, they steal the shit out the house and everything. Ghost calls Tasha. Raina's clearly upset, and Ghost talks to Raina and is like, no one can kill your dad, because she's worried about him getting the death penalty. And Tasha's like, she's not doing well. Like, she's trying her best to get through this, but she's blaming herself. So that's all bad. And Ghost thanks Tasha, but Tasha's like, goodbye, James. Like, it's just too much going on. Back with Bailey and Sandoval, this is the side meeting I was talking about, because Sandoval was like, it's something I wanted to tell you that I couldn't say in front of John. And basically it was that Greg called Sandoval about Angie being the mole, but no one wanted to hear it. They want to go with this. They want to go this other route about it, about Greg as the mole, I believe. And Bailey's like, okay, this should be enough to at least spook. What I have, this evidence that I have, could at least be enough to spook Ghost into flipping on Tommy. But he said, now is not the time or the place. He tells Sandoval they'll meet up and talk about it later. Sandoval leaves, and Bailey is looking at a Department of Justice file on his laptop. I couldn't make out who that was. If y'all know who that was, if we've seen him before, let me know down in the comments, because I couldn't make out who it was. I thought for a second that it was Lobos, but clearly it wasn't Lobos, I don't think. So if y'all know who that was, let me know down in the comments. Curious to see how that's going to unfold. Proctor and Ghost back at the jailhouse. Terezi is from back in the day. He ran with I believe he said Bell Boulevard Crew or something like that. He was like it was a hit squad that he was a part of. And Proctor tells this to Ghost, and Ghost is like, I need you to get this address from under my right sleeve, take this money, and don't ask me no questions, basically. He's upset about the whole media situation. He's like, that was your fucking idea to begin with. So he's messed up about Raina. He's all in his head about Raina being photographed and the pictures. So he's asking Proctor, how much time if I take Angela's deal? So he clearly he's considering it, because he's backed into a corner. And Proctor, of course, is trying to talk him down, right? Tariq and Raina. Raina confronts Tariq about why did he do what he did at the school. Tariq is still on his, my parents are bullshitting me. Why they don't take us to the neighborhood where they grew up? How come we don't know anything about them before they were born? Raina's like, you need to pull it together, because we can't be looking like this out here in these streets looking crazy. Tariq is still talking shit, telling Raina to wake the fuck up. He was like, I thought you were the smart one. Told her to get the fuck out of his room. Like, something gonna happen with Tariq. For real, something's gonna make him a believer real quick, because Tariq is doing entirely too much, getting real far ahead of himself. At court is where they present the traffic stop evidence from the city camera. So Proctor presents the evidence, says Angie knew about it. Judge Dadbod calls Angie to the bench and is like, did you know about it? Angie admits she knew about it. Mark was sitting there looking dumbfounded. Like, did y'all see the look on his face when Angie was walking up there? He was totally blindsided. So Mark explains to the judge, we really didn't take this into too much consideration. We didn't have proof of the stop because it wasn't logged, so we really didn't pay attention to it. So then the judge is like, okay, well, we can keep the DNA evidence, but then Proctor, you can go ahead and tell everybody that they knew about it. Long story short, Mark agrees to withdraw the DNA. Okay, cool. Victory for the defense right quick, right? Then over at the gambling spot, the plan is in motion. Tommy's waiting on something or someone. I didn't quite catch what was going on right here in that moment, but I'm sure it had something to do with the shipment. So, Julio and somebody was watching. It was a chick and a dude outside in a truck watching Tommy and his two dudes get in that truck. I believe it had something to do with that tail they put on them. So that was that. They roll into the warehouse with the chest and Tommy inside the truck. The door of the truck goes up. Tommy's sitting in there. Julio's like, what the fuck is going on? He didn't know what was going on. But I think if I'm putting it together correctly, and y'all let me know, Tommy undercut Julio on that shipment because I don't think he really trusts Julio too much to get the job done. So I think that's what that was all about. Back with Mock and Angela. Now Angela is the MVP according to Mock, and he's sorry that he didn't consider the evidence or whatever, and telling her she's back on and everything. Kiss my ass, Mock. You just embarrassed because Proctor slayed you in court. So now all of a sudden he wants to be up Angie's ass. Whatever. That shit is bullshit. Now he's sorry and Angela's the real MVP. Whatever. So then final scene is Terry and Ghost back at the jail, and they're going back and forth. Basically, Ghost is defending himself because he feels as though Terry is judging him. Terry's like, I know who you are. I know what kind of dude you are, and hence the title, the kind of man you are, or whatever it was that Terry said. But Ghost is like, I need you, but I don't need you judging me. Terry's like, yeah, but I got your back. I'm your defense attorney, so I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you get off. But I know the type of person you are, and no matter how you try to convince yourself otherwise, you know what type of person you are too. And I think, because we know Proctor wants Ghost to be James St. Patrick, but what Terry was saying, I really feel like resonated with Ghost, because Ghost is backed in a corner, like I said, right now, and he's scrambling, trying to get out. And the real person that Jamie St. Patrick is Ghost. Jamie St. Patrick just came, like, I think Jamie St. Patrick just came part and parcel with the business of the coke running that Ghost was doing. He plays the role well, but that's not really who he is. He's not really this straight-laced businessman. He is Ghost. And I feel like the way the events are happening now, the way everything is unfolding, it's going to really bring about who Ghost really is. And we're going to see that in full effect because he's behind bars. So as opposed to him being out on the street and him being able to move as he normally would, now that he's behind bars, we're going to really get to see just how in full effect Ghost is, because that's just who he really is. And I'm here for it. Like, we all know Ghost was playing a role, and Angie was in love with Jamie St. Patrick. Tasha is in love with Ghost. So let's see what it do. We're going to see what happens, y'all. I enjoyed this episode, and as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I'm sorry if I seem like I'm all over the place with this particular review. I've been having technical difficulties, so y'all excuse me. But again, thank y'all for watching. Subscribe to the channel, turn your notifications on, and I will see y'all back next week for another episode of Power. Bye, y'all.